Do you find if you do have an A-lister starring or kind of in a supporting role that your film is more likely to be seen by more people?
I'm casting my second feature. It's 1 million budget, which is far more than my first feature, but suddenly it's a completely different process where, you know, we've sat in meetings with sales agents and distributors and we've said, oh, this is the cast we'd like. You know, they're like, we love the script, great. Who do you want? And we say, well, this is the cast we like. And they've literally typed their name into a spreadsheet and gone, no. Simple as that. That whole creative decision is based on a spreadsheet. You know, it's obviously you're not working with those people, but that is what it's kind of.
It's become that, and it's
it's a really, especially like, you know, trying to make, you know, I was saying to Craig earlier, it's like, you know, a whole patchwork of funding from various people, and they've all got an opinion.
But you know what I think it is? I think that the old idea of sales figures based on cast is an obsolete idea that they're hanging on to because it's immeasurable, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So if you go like, it's a bit witty casting, it's or like you in Submarino, how you cast your film, you go like, this is witty. I'm going to borrow a bit of that sensibility to put in this film. I'm going to have somebody from American Indie Cinemas, something in Wales, or that person would be interesting in this context.
Yeah.
But actually, it means nothing. I'm sure it's a cardboard box covered in foil, with like people going, you know, unless you're Tom Cruise, those figures are absolutely meaningless.
That is precisely what we found.
Absolutely meaningless.
We must have met 50 to 100 sales agents, distributors. No two people have said the same cast.
I know.
When they've said, this is who we think you should have, no two people have said the same people. There's no consensus.
Who's in?
Who's in? You know, who's industrially in? So what happens is you go, well, so-and-so's very interesting, and you go, what have they done? And they haven't done anything particularly. But the word is, amongst a certain group of, you know, it would be agents and sales agents and the people who are going to, you know, sell films or buy films. It's this horrible conversation about owning some part of the process they think they can control and they can't. I'm not saying this in like a conspiracy way. It's just it is not an exact science. It's not even a science.
Well, nobody knows. I think that's the answer. Nobody knows the answer. They're all kind of feeling in the dark, and you know, it's just you've got to go with your gut ultimately. If you can make a film and go with your gut,
seems to be a pretty good bet.
But I think, you know, what Mark said about the idea that there's probably really only 5 people realistically in the world, 5 actors you could get who are guaranteed to open your film, who people will go and see just because that person's in your film. Everybody else is an unknown quantity depending on the film, the genre, the trailer, the poster, and the person who's in it. All that is a mix that might work or might not.
That's why horror films are a good place to work, because horror films is complete. It's like working. It's like working in heavy metal. It's like everybody knows. Oh, that was the guy who was in you know, that other film, and you get massive points for that. But it's just within a very small world, and I love all that. I love that, you know, the cultishness that comes with that. But as for the sales figures thing, it's absolute nightmare.
It's horrible.
My first feature was, you know, a micro budget, but we had like it was 80 grand. I think I can say that. But it was 80 grand, but we had like 25 speaking parts. There was only one location, but still, you know, it had action scenes and gunfights, and it was very ambitious for what it was. So, you know, I planned the whole thing of shooting it in a certain way, and you could shoot it on this. It was all in one location, so we could have a like dolly or track and blah blah blah, whatever. Then the day before the shoot, suddenly I was told we couldn't afford this particular dolly because we couldn't afford the pneumatic wheels that went on it or something like that, because we literally had no money. So I had to throw everything out that I planned, the way I was going to shoot it, my whole sort of vision. But that was preferable to not making a film. That was preferable to going, no, I want to make it this way, and only getting halfway through because we would have been on tracks and which was slow. And so it's actually better to say, okay, well we'll just go handheld for the whole film then. Even that's not what I thought. It was more important to tell a complete story than tell half a story in the way I wanted to tell it initially. So I think you've always got to be open to compromise, because you're always going to have to compromise. There's always going to be something that, you know, pisses on your bonfire and you have to adjust. And I think that's what the good directors can do, are the ones. I'm not saying I'm a good director, but any good director are the ones that can roll with it. You know, if you can't handle not having it 100% your way, then you're going to struggle working at all times, because there's always going to be someone or something that's going to get in your way. It's just what happens.
That is the creative process, isn't it?
That's the process. That's the thing.
It shouldn't really come out exactly how you picture it, because other departments have to take it on and put their view on it and stuff like that. So that's what's really nice.
I can't remember who said that you make the film 3 times.
That's right.
You make it in the script, then you make it again on set, then you make it again in the edit, and they're three different. They should be, and normally are, three different films, and they should generally get better each time. That's not always the case.
I think the worst moment for me was watching the first assembly.
It is the worst.
Yeah, oh, it's terrible. Yeah,
I just watched it today. It's terrible.
there's no sound and it's not graded.
Fantastic. Sorry, not for
It never gets worse, does it? That's the thing.
Yeah,
That's true. It's never as good as the rushes. If you like your rushes, I like my rushes.
Yeah.
Because they're all full of potential. And they're little things that you've just done, little things, all of it, and then you put them together, and there's never as bad as the first assembly.
But there's always
it
a
never is as
moment.
bad as the first assembly, because if you can't move forward in the first assembly, unless you go, that is the only assembly I'm going to make, it's not going to be as bad as the first assembly. It's actually true.
You're right, the rushes are great. You're watching the rushes and it's fantastic,
yeah,
and
it's
then you
all
put it
full
together and you're like,
potential,
this is the worst piece of shit I've ever seen in my life.
But then there's always a moment. There's always a moment where you are further down the line in post, and you know, there's.
Yeah.
I've always found this. There's always one moment which I can always remember on every project where, you know, you put a bit of temp score or something, or you know, and it's
Comes
just.
alive.
And suddenly it's there, and you and then you cry again. You're like, yes, it's working.
Yeah.
You know, and there's,
I don't cry, by the way. Just for the-
and that's that moment where you go, that's it, it's working, that's the thing, you know, and that's where you suddenly the confidence floods back in. Then, you know.
And the first screening that's also
Nightmare.
terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
especially with the funders and stuff. That's
Nightmare.
The first time I saw Convenience, my first film, with an audience was we were Saturday night in Rain Dance. So it was like Saturday night Leicester Square. I can't remember how.
that was the first time you saw it with an audience.
With an audience.
So you didn't test it at all.
No, because we just didn't really. That was festival screening. You know, it was kind of we just had to
Wow.
go with it, and so it was like 400 seats, and it was a sellout, and I was absolutely just chucking my guts up all day because I just couldn't. I was like, oh my god, like no, you know, I've only
It's
ever
weird,
watched
isn't
this.
it, really?
Yeah, I've watched this on this laptop.
It's
I've
meant
watched
to be
it
watched, isn't it?
in these office things,
It's
and
meant to be watched. Yeah,
But-
that's
Weird,
the
isn't
thing.
it?
but that was the
Yeah.
best. Then it was turned into the best experience of my life because everyone like laughed. That's all. You know,
You're
it's a
the lucky
comedy.
one, yeah.
Everybody laughed. And I was like, oh my
lucky
god.
one.
Yeah, sure, one of the lucky ones. I have had bad experience.
Well, yeah, I've
I don't
also
get
had
worried
the
about
opposite.
film,
But
though. I don't get worried about the film. I worried about all the other stuff you have to do around the film. So like
Yeah.
talking, you know, Q&As and all that kind of stuff. Because for me it's different. I use improvisation all the way through, so I don't actually get attached to too much of even the story or the characters beforehand. It's kind of when we get together as the ensemble cast and we're shooting it, it's constantly developing the story as we're shooting. So it's only then in the edit I actually excited about the edit because that's when I'm writing. That's when I'm
Oh, it's definitely right.
putting
Yeah,
putting
yeah,
it,
you're right.
put-
Yeah, especially if you work
and
that way.
stretching it there. So yeah, I haven't had that. And I'm always pleased that there actually is a film, as in time, as in I've got a 3.5 hour
Yeah.
cut, which means I can come down
It
to an
exists.
actual
Yeah.
feature length, you know.
A great editor is actually
yeah,
just as
absolutely.
important
Yeah.
as anything else. Actually.
Yeah. And actually, we had, I'm sure a lot of people do this, but we had our editor on set. This is the beauty of digital.
Yeah, I wish I could.
Cutting whilst we were shooting, because actually that was absolutely invaluable on that kind of production where you don't have the budget to do, you know, any reshoots. After, you know, once we were out of that location, that was it. So we had our editor there in the corner, DIT, and
No, I
then
can't handle that. See,
and then
I
cutting.
make a rule not to. I just can't watch anything cut until I finish shooting it
Yeah.
because I like the potential of the rushes. I like what you're doing with the bits of performance and the
Yeah.
framing and the potential of those things going together and actually making a cohesive
Yeah.
whole. And when I see the first assembly, I go, it's shit.
Yeah.
So
It's
do you
never
do
going to
the
work.
assembly with the editor, or do you let the editor do the
I
assembly?
let the assembly I let the editor do the first assembly because I don't want to be. I just want to look at that and go
Yeah.
and get the fear really. By now, after a while, I mean, fear we go. Need to get the fear now to.
Yeah.
But I can't. If I can't, what I can't do is go at the end of the day shooting and look at the little sequence cut together.
It was more. I mean, to be honest, we weren't doing. It was more like he was cutting it.
Yeah, right.
To check that
Yeah.
we had everything.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't so much. You
Yeah.
know, it's like could we cut this together? Yes or no.
Oh,
you know.
okay.
And
But
then
you
we
were
we
watching-
we were wa-
you were
no, but
watching.
we were watching rushes just
Oh,
as
yeah,
rushes.
yeah.
But it does help for
But
like
it was
shots
just-
you need, like an insert or
Yeah,
something.
but he
Yeah.
picked up
Yeah.
things where he's like, okay, you know what, you're going to need something there, and then we shot it, you know,
Yeah,
while we
fair
were
enough,
there.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like it was really, but that's at that level of production where you don't have the option for coming back. Obviously,
No.
the bigger the film,
Yeah.
the more you have those opportunities to come back.
Are we that interested in money? Like, are we as directors? Do you think we're that interested in money?
It was not
No.
a good way to make a lot of money. That's the point.
No.
So you either get up early on.
Do you
because-
think about it though? Like, do you really think about the money when you're?
No.
What do you mean when you're making a film?
When you're casting it, when you're writing it, when you're whatever.
No, not that
What,
stage.
you mean
no,
like the budget you could
How
achieve
little we
or
have,
how much
yeah.
you can get?
Yeah, how much does
how
the
to
money
make it
thing
and how
weigh
skin-
over
when
what
it's
we
been
do?
skin
I
for a
think
long
we
time,
tell
it's a bit-
stories,
Yeah,
don't
I
we?
mean,
But,
Yeah.
I just, I want to make a living, but that's
If-
as far as
It's
my
fascinating
concerns
that
with money
Jane's asking
go.
that to us, and
Yeah.
I'm just kind of interested
Yeah.
to like. I
Well,
don't
I tell
think
you
I am
what,
that
what I
interested,
found,
but then I
which
don't
is
have any money to-
which is a sort of strange thing, which I found a huge relief, if you like, was that thinking you've got a slightly transferable skill. So very late, like only in the last 5 years, I've started occasionally to make commercials, and making commercials is a very interesting thing because what you do is you give up all that stuff you're talking about, we're all talking about, which is the passion, your commitment, your authenticity, and you go actually, I'm just coming down to interpreting somebody else's idea, and trying to execute it. And it's, people go, oh, you're going to go mad, you're going to mad doing that because you have all these opinions. You go, no, actually, it simplifies the process such a lot. I get paid by the day to do something which is quite technical and relies on what I have learned this far, which is not necessarily as much, I haven't got all the tools, but I've got some stuff. And you go, and they perceive you to be quite good at a certain way of directing, I suppose, which gives you a little bit of confidence to try and deliver that thing, which is kind of yours. But that's the only thing you bring to the table. And that's the essential difference, is that when you're making a film, I mean, the last 2 films that I made, which are my films, I didn't make any money at all on. I mean, no fees. So you go, you've got to try and find a way of living. I've got 2 kids, I've got in between making... No, because when it comes to the point where you're like X £1,000 short, what's the first thing that goes? Well, I've this is 5 years of my life, and then you get this thing called back end, which is like a bit of a joke. And you go,
you never get it.
Unless it's Titanic.
So I'm not saying that, oh, poor me. I'm just saying that in a way, what you have to have is a strategy for working
Surviving.
whichever way you can. So some of those compromises are inbuilt to the way that you can get paid work, and sometimes it's about making some certain kind of work allow you to do other kinds of work, right? That's the thing.
Yeah. That's what Glazer seems to do as well.
Yeah.
He does a lot of commercials.
I know.
And they're
Yeah.
great. They're really great.
They're great.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be making films if digital hadn't come along, because I wasn't I was of the generation where mini DV was just really breaking through, and that allowed me, as someone from a not wealthy background, to own a camera for a few £100, so I could go and start practicing and shooting stuff. I know that you could do that on an 8mm, or a Super 8 or something, but it just made it so much more accessible. And chuck it on my computer and edit it and start learning. That's how I learn, because, and I believe there's a whole raft of filmmakers who wouldn't be making films if digital had never come along. That's not to say it's a good thing, because a lot of
you still need
filmmakers,
stories at the end of the day.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly. A
so
lot of the
it makes it
filmmakers
all
shouldn't be
pie in
making
the
films,
sky
but-
unless you can tell a story.
Yes, absolutely.
So you'd be happy to lose film completely?
Depends if a project came up and I thought, but no, I'm not going to,
I shot the last 2 features on Super 16 and blew it up to 35, and then had a digital print of each one. I thought that was very satisfying.
Depends what it is.
But why did you
Yeah.
choose?
Nothing.
Why not go digital?
One was
straight away?
because, for a start, actually, again about booking the system, the kit's very cheap now, and
Okay.
the DOP on one of them was Robbie Ryan, right? So you go,
Yeah.
he will. It's ironic with Robbie because he's one of those DPs who he made his name on that, and did a couple of really interesting films. And Andrew Arnold's early stuff was done like that, and then he goes, oh, now I'm a little bit more desirable, and people are paying attention. I just want to shoot on film.
Right.
So, for example, on Andrew Arnold's one of the films, she said, "What should we talk about that's inspired the film?" And he goes, "Oh, Tarkovsky's Polaroids." He goes, "Well, let's shoot it in a narrower format then."
Was that
So-
Wuthering Heights? Was that that one?
Yeah. So they shot it like Fish Tank. They shot it narrow, because I remember on my first proper film, House of America, where I said, "Oh, let's shoot it wide, anamorphic."
Yeah,
And a friend DP went. Pierre, he went, well, how many people have you got in the frame? I said, well, normally 3 kids in a mom. And he goes, well, why would you want to go wide?
Well, that's a good question and not a good question. I mean,
But what I'm saying is you could question each format for each film.
Of course you could. I mean, you could have
I
stuff
never shot
happening.
anamorphic, which I'd love to. But,
I shot on this. It was a nightmare, actually.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, just because it's totally not what you expect, and I didn't have any prep time. I had prep time, but not as much as I'd wanted. And you need a lot of prep time with that size lens, because it completely changes it.
Depends how you work as well with actors and
Totally.
and sometimes I actually like using wide for sort of different reasons, because I love stuff happening elsewhere, and I just like being wide and making the camera
Scan the
move,
frame, yeah.
and rather than too much getting too lensy, but that I think that comes from my You know, I always loved that sort of Mike Leigh.
Yeah.
I despise some of his stuff, and I love some of his stuff. You know, some of it's just a weird relationship. Same with Ken Loach, but it's that relationship with actors, and you know, using the camera nice and wide, and creating movement really, and rather than that boring sort of, you know, backward forward sort of.
The thing with lighting for film is that it sometimes with your DP they can take over the set, and then the
It's
actors
changed,
have
don't
to
you
go
think?
like that to fit with their and I hate
It's
that.
changed, don't you think? That's what digital has given you.
Totally, because then the DP doesn't need as much.
You have to like
they
to
don't
reverse,
own
yeah.
it. They can't own the set, and I'm not saying all DPs are like that, but I think it's been really freeing in storytelling terms because you don't you get on with the story.
I went to a talk with Mike Figgis, who obviously is a huge fan of digital, and he was talking about precisely that, about when performance is dictated by the technology, and he talked about he was talking about tracking shots and things, but he said nothing sort of riles him more than seeing a tracking shot, two people walking, then you can just see a dip in the actors where they've stepped over some track. Walking
and eating at the same time.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. You watch The Conformist again, and they're walking over tracks. I think it's brilliant.
The Conformist is a beautiful film. I mean, I don't know. The other thing is, like, when you get the chance to tell a story, if someone says to me, you can have to make it on that, but make your story.
Yes.
Go, I'll do it.
Yeah.
You know, just to tell a story with a bunch of actors, and I don't know. I mean, obviously everyone wants to use film and get a DP that's not going to hold you hostage, but ultimately, like, we get to tell a story, and what you really want is a good story and good actors, I guess. Like, they're going to bring it to life, and then sometimes I forget to turn the camera on.
That is the first rule of filmmaking, really.
I'm interested in working in America, but mainly because I think my sensibilities and, you know, inspirations are American. You know, in terms of the kind of films that I want to make, and visually what inspires me is they are American films. And I was talking about Carry On films before, but that was what made me want to do anything. But what actually inspires me visually are, you know, American indie films, American indie cinema. That's kind of it's not because I specifically want to get into the studio system or anything like that. But I think, you know, I'd love to make a film in America because those are the films I love.
I tell you, I have to just say, like, when I got out of AFI, that everybody's making films, and it's so exciting. Like, over here, I don't know where they get the money. They'll get the money from some insurance guy in Texas.
Yeah.
So much money to
So
make
much
films.
money.
Compared to us, it's crazy.
Crazy, and they go and do it, and they're all doing it, and it's like
Mark,
you said, it's so exciting.
Did you do an American film? Did you?
No, I haven't. I've been. No, I haven't. I've got an American agent. I've been over there quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, but I haven't made
Just hasn't gelled. Just hasn't come together.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, My Little Lie was Universal.
Yeah.
So that was the working title here. So you end up touching that world.
You wanted to, though. You wanted.
Not
to,
really. Not well. It sounds like you'd say you didn't want to, as if you made a decision not to. It's almost like it's where you end up, isn't it? It's I wasn't strategic when I was younger, basically. And I also had a romance which is slightly different to yours, I think. The reason I got into films, I wanted to, like, when I was at school, I wanted to, like, paint. That's what I wanted to do, and I wasn't very good at it. And then I ended up coming here to Chapter and watching this thing. I remember it was a series called Neglected Classics, and there were these European films in the Sunday afternoon. There was like black and white Danish stuff and all that. And you go, oh my God, there's this other world that exists, which we only just. So in a way, it was. I mean, obviously, you know, films like Badlands kind of. And Eraserhead kind of absolutely blew my mind, but also there's all this European stuff. So I had this idea really of being sort of being an art. I mean, like an art filmmaker, whatever that means. Now it doesn't mean anything, but then it was almost like doing stuff on the fringes, living a kind of, you know, me and my mates used to call it the Belgian surrealist theory. Like, you know, you'd be the surrealists in Cardiff. Like, you know, people because nobody else was doing it here. So
Welsh New Wave.
yeah, you know. And Chris Munger was a bit, you know, Chris. He started did very sort of experimental films here. So that was kind of my romance, if you like.
And I've there now, though.
Yeah. And I've gone on a journey towards the middle a bit more, in a sense that you sort of go, well, actually, you don't make any money. It gets harder to make the next film, and then you discover this little thing that you have got a little bit of. artisan knowledge, I suppose, is that, you know, and I love just I do like the process. I enjoy the you know, getting a camera out. So you go, if it means I could do a commercial to get that done, or a short, you know, I did a short film for Sky recently. You go, I'll do that.
So if you were offered Godzilla, if you were offered something,
I would never be offered Godzilla.
No,
That's
but if
the
you
truth.
were
Would you
offered
do
like
it
a big studio sort of thing, and like 'cause Sarah took the plunge and she did, you know, Confessions.
Do it
with 200.
tomorrow.
On the last
Yeah.
thing, on the
I'll
last
do
thing,
it
I
tomorrow.
the last thing I just finished shooting. I was with Chris Eccleston. He's done the Leftovers over there, big HBO series, and he says the thing about British filmmakers is that we're so used to not having money that if they let you loose on that money and you keep your head, you can sort of like use it in a really interesting and creative way, and that's what I would sort of like to be in a position to do, is that be in a position where you're not just looking at your watch and going, it's got dark and it's raining and I've got to go. I've got 3 shots. You know, it's like maybe just having that. Well, it's not power, but having industrial clout behind you to get stuff done.